In this video, we're going to complete the disassembly of the Hydepark movement in the Andre Bouchard watch that I'm working on. The first thing we need to do is take out the two cap jewels that are in the bottom of the movement. This is on the dial side. There's one here and one here. And then there's also the Incabloc jewel, or the Incabloc system here that we need to open up and take that jewel out. This actually turned out to be easier than I thought it was going to. I've got the Incabloc spring released, and what I did was I basically had take my tweezers. I took my tweezers and squeezed the two sides of it, and it popped out the ends there, and so it should hinge upward to remove the jewel then. And I'm gonna remove that off camera so that I can see what I'm doing. But that turned out a lot easier than I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be difficult to get that spring unlatched without breaking it. You can see here how this works. I've got the spring opened up and it's on a hinge, and there's a hole there where the jewel came out. The jewels are mounted in a metal ring. It holds the main jewel, and then the cap jewel sits on top of it in that ring. And all that lifted out as a unit. So I'm going to have to separate those jewels too. They're sitting in my parts tray at the moment, but I wanted to show how the Incabloc spring works, and this shows it pretty well here. Now there's another spring just like this on the top of the movement on the balance cock that I'm going to have to open, and I'm going to have to remove the metal ring with the two jewels from that as well. And it looks like I could have taken the screw right here out and taken the whole thing out, but I still would have had to open the spring and get the jewels out. And I felt it was better just to leave this in the movement. Now I'm going to have to close this spring up before I wash the movement base plate so that it doesn't get damaged in the cleaning process. And we also need to take off these other cap jewels that are on the dial side of the base plate. And then we can flip the base plate over and take the jewel out of the balance cock. I've got the two cap jewels off now, and you can see the lower jewels, these ones with the cap jewel, they're a two-part jewel. The spindle goes through the jewel that's built into the main plate here, and then that supports the sides of the spindle, and then the end of the spindle then touches the cap jewel that goes on top of these jewels. And the other one over here that had the Incabloc spring is the same way. It's got a two-part jewel also. This is for the balance wheel, and so the balance wheel staff goes through the one jewel, and then the end of it touches the cap jewel. And I've got the spring reclosed now and latched back into place. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to flip the movement over in the holder so that I can take out the jewel in the Incabloc setting on the balance cock. Here's the top of the movement and the balance cock. And we can see I've got the Incabloc spring opened here on this one, but the jewels are still in place. And you can see the little metal ring that holds the jewels. It'll all come out as one unit when I lift it out. I've taken the jewel out and reclosed the spring. The jewel housing I'll try to show you in just a second. Let me see if I can pick it up and show it under the camera. Here's the jewel. I'm having a hard time keeping it in focus. There's two jewels mounted in this piece of metal, the cap jewel and the lower jewel, and I need to get them separated. I have everything disassembled from the movement except for the balance cock and the balance wheel. And I'm going to leave those on there for the cleaning process, which will minimize any possibility of damaging the hairspring or the balance wheel. Since I've taken the jewels off, I no longer have to worry about them not being cleaned properly by having the spindle stuck in them, so I can leave this together as it is. The only other thing I need to do right now is I need to figure out how to separate the cap jewel from the regular jewel on the two balance jewel housings, the one from the top and the one from the bottom. I can't get them apart. They're stuck together because there's too much oil in them and it's keeping them together, so I need to do some checking on how to get those apart. I finally got the cap jewel separated from the holder for the jewels, and you can see I've got it kind of hinged out of there. You can see the main jewel that the spindle goes through is in the metal housing, and then the cap jewel is stuck in the piece of Rodico. And I use the Rodico to kind of peel the cap jewel out of it. Okay, here are our jewels. There's one of the main jewels. You can see the hole through it where the spindle goes. There's a cap jewel and the other cap jewel, and then the other main jewel. This is the back side of it. Now, as I said, I removed those using something called Rodico. And Rodico it's a silly putty-like substance. It's kind of like the silly putty we played with as children. It's stretchy, rubbery sort of compound. You can pinch pieces of it off, and it has a lot of uses in watchmaking. The stuff is made by Bergeron or Bergion. I'm not sure how they pronounce their name. The Swiss company makes a lot of watchmaking tools, but it has a lot of uses for watchmakers. And you can use it for picking up small parts, using it for positioning things like hands that are real small, It can be used for cleaning watches, for removing fingerprints, removing little spots of oil. The only caution with this stuff is don't use it on printed dials. I had a watch with a printed dial, and I used this to remove a fingerprint, and it took some of the printing off. So be very careful with using it to clean printed dials. But a dial that is not printed but has applied markers and such is just safe for cleaning off fingerprints and little bits of dirt too. It's a wonderful thing to have. And I use that to separate those jewels, which I couldn't get apart any other way. One more thing we need to do that I'd almost forgotten about was disassembling the mainspring barrel. I need to get the spring out of there because this watch movement, I can't find a spring for it listed under the name of the movement manufacturer. It's a Hydepark movement, which is, who knows who really made it, because Hydepark wasn't a manufacturer. They were an American company that imported movements and watches from Switzerland and put their name on them. So what I'm going to have to do with this is I'm going to have to take the mainspring out of it and measure it. Measure its length, measure its width, and measure its thickness. And the thickness I'm going to have to measure with a micrometer. And then I can go to a supply house and I can order a mainspring in that size, and it should fit then. So the first thing we need to do is we need to get the cap off of the barrel. The cap is on the bottom of the barrel, and you can see it's got a little notch there where you can stick a tool in there to pop it out. And I've never been successful at getting those popped out without damaging them that way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set. You'll notice that the Arbor sticks through the bottom there. I'm going to set the barrel on my work desk, and I'm just going to push down on the edges of it so that the barrel Arbor will force the lid off. And you just push gently. Don't need to push too hard. Oh, there it goes. You can hear it pop off, and we should be able to just lift the cap off, but it's not coming off so easily. So let's see if the tweezers will help us here. I always wanted to bring out the Arbor stuck in there. I don't want the spring popping out at the same time with it, because that'll cause some mess. Oh, here we go. Okay. Now there's the inside of the mainspring barrel. It's important for me to see which direction that the spring is rotated, so that when I put the new spring in, I put it in the correct orientation. Now the first thing I want to do is I want to get the Arbor out of there without taking the spring out, because if I pull the spring out with the Arbor attached, that spring may go flying across the room and the Arbor with it, and then I might not find the Arbor. If the spring goes flying across the room by itself, I can find it, but I want to get the Arbor out first. And I'm going to try to do that off camera. Okay, the Arbor's out, so I'm going to try to reach in there with the tweezers and pull the spring out gently. And it's going to come flying out of there, I know, because I've done this a few times already. I nearly cut myself on one with a pocket watch I was doing a few days ago. I'm trying to hold this as carefully as possible so that the whole thing doesn't fly out at once. Oh, here we go. Oh, that was much easier than I thought it would be. Okay. Yeah. Oh, and that spring is in bad condition too. Look at that. It's got a really bad set. It's not like it should be. Here's what a healthy spring should look like. A healthy spring should have a bit of a coil at the end that goes around the Arbor, but then it should go to a more of a gentle long curve like that, and then curve back up at the end. This is the end that goes against the outside of the barrel wall, and then this end attaches to the Arbor. So this is what a good mainspring should look like. Our mainspring looks like this. So this mainspring is shot. It's basically taken a set because it's been in there so long, and it won't deliver very much power. This is why the watch, well, it's one of the reasons why the watch had so little amplitude. The other reason is likely that it needed to be cleaned too, but a bad mainspring will rob you of a lot of amplitude. So I'm going to need to get a new one to replace that. And I try to replace the mainsprings anyway, but this one especially needs it. The mainspring that I said was a good mainspring. This came out of another watch that I serviced, and I went ahead and put a new mainspring in it anyway. But it might not have been necessary. This one probably would have worked okay, but they're an inexpensive part. It's better just to replace it if you can. This one here is a necessity, though. There's no getting out of that. So I'm going to have to take a micrometer and measure its thickness, because the thickness is important. The thickness of a mainspring determines how much power it produces. So one that's too thin won't give enough power, and one that's too thick might produce enough power to damage the movement. And then it also has to be, it's got to be the right height too, so that it fits in the barrel correctly. You don't want it to be thicker than the barrel, or else it won't fit. You won't be able to get the lid on. But if it's too thin, then it might move up and down inside the barrel, and that can cause issues too. So we need to measure its height, its thickness, and then stretch it out and measure its length. So now that I've got that out, I will do that measurement and I will order a new mainspring for it that I should have next week, and then once I have that, we can start putting everything back together. There's one more very important part that needs to be taken out that I almost forgot about, and that is the pallet fork and the pallet bridge, and that is underneath the balance wheel. So I'm going to take off the balance cock and balance wheel to get to that. I've loosened the screw for it already, and I'm going to go ahead and take that stuff off. I've taken the balance wheel and balance cock off, and now we can see this is the bridge that goes over the top of the pallet fork, and there's the pallet fork's upper jewel. This is unusual because it's held on by a single screw but has two pegs that help align it. Most watches have these held on by two screws. The pallet fork is unusual too. Let's see if we can zoom in on this so you can see. If you look at the pallet fork jewels on the ends of the pallet fork, they're transparent. I wonder what kind of jewels those are. They're not the reddish purple color that most artificial rubies are that are used as jewels for these purposes. So that's kind of unusual. I've never seen a watch like that before. But let's go ahead and take out that screw that holds this in place, and then we can remove the bridge that holds the pallet fork, and then we can take out the pallet fork. I've loosened the screw that holds the pallet fork bridge on. I can go ahead and lift it off. And then we can go ahead and get the pallet fork out. You can see a better view of it there with its transparent jewels. This is hard to do looking at this on a computer screen or on a camera screen instead of looking through my eye loop. Earlier in this video, I mentioned that we didn't know who really made this movement because Hydepark wasn't really a movement manufacturer. They were just an importer that put their name on it. I found the movement maker's stamp on the movement once I took out the pallet fork. It was underneath that. And we can see here a little shield that says AS, and then it's got, if we can keep this in focus, you can see it. It's got the movement number 118794. And what AS stands for is Adolf Schild, which was a movement manufacturer in Grenchen, Switzerland that closed up in the 1970s. They actually merged with ETA. And so that gives us a clue of what this is now and who made it, which will make it easy to find parts for it if we ever need parts in the future. Now the movement is completely disassembled. I've got all the parts arranged in the parts tray here, and I've got them arranged according to what part of the movement that they come from, which helps me to remember where the screws go when I put this back together. I can remember what all the movement parts are, so I don't really need to have them categorized. It's the screws that are the issue, because there's so many screws and many of them look alike, and some of them have very subtle differences in size, so you need to make sure that the right screws go in the right holes. And so by categorizing them like this, and I don't know if you can see it well on here, but I've written labels around the edge of the tray showing what each compartment holds, and that way I can remember where to put the screws when I reassemble the movement. Our next step is to clean the movement, and we're going to do that in the next video.